am Prometheus. This is Booksouts. And I will be reviewing Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. Hopefully I will be reviewing the entire series, but this is the only book I've finished so far. Spoilers. Spoilers for everything. From this point on. I'm sorry. But spoilers will be given in this video. In a word, I liked... Okay, this is the non-spoiler section. I'll get this. The characters were decent, didn't like the inter-character relationships, loved the science. That is basically as far as I can get without spoilers. Now the spoilers. I'm going to start with what I didn't like. The characters seem to engage in interpersonal relationships more like co-ed colleges from the 1960s than middle-aged scientists. That was just my opinion. They just seemed far too loose in their engagements. And while he doesn't go into explicit detail, there were details that I just did not want to read. So there was that. And what was the other thing that I didn't like? I could have sworn there was something else that I didn't like about it. I'll hopefully remember. Going on to what I did like about it. The science. I loved... Oh. The other thing I didn't like was the one scientific question I had was the use of solar sails to transport freight from Earth to Mars. I don't know how big of a solar sail you would need, but I'm pretty sure if you're talking about anything over a few hundred tons, you're going to need something bigger than a solar sail. I don't care what kind of crazy lasers you have, you're going to need something bigger than a solar sail. Yeah, that's what I thought. Science. Oh, the science. First off, the atmosphere is toxic. You can't breathe it. So what happens when you start breathing in the atmosphere? You die. And people do die. Secondly, it's cold. Really cold. And there's no pressure. So it's colder? To some extent? It sucks. Water cannot exist on the planet. So you have to bring up frost and melt it in certain ways. It takes time to build stuff and engineer stuff. All in all, I think this book started in 2037, and it ended in 2061, I want to say? It covered many, many years. The time was a bit confusing because the Martian year is 600-something days, so the Earth year and the Martian year is a little weird. When you're talking, you're like, okay, 15 Mars years, what's that in Earth years? I don't know. I questioned some of the decision-making choices by the recruiters, as they seem to have... Everybody admitted that they lied on their tests. Okay, fine. You lied on your resume, but I'm pretty sure that should have been caught. Like, if you're psychologically unstable, as some of these people were psychologically unstable, don't you think you should have had like an EKG hooked up to them while you're writing out the reviews? And then you lock them up in the Antarctic for a year or two, and you expect them to still be all right in the head. Maybe you shouldn't have done that, or maybe you should have to weed out the weak. I don't know. The point is that people start to crack when you're stuck with 100 people that you know you're going to live the rest of your life with, and you're in a sardine can, which is basically what a spacecraft and all the life support system is. One of the people on this, Hiroko, why did they let her on board? How did she get on board? Why did she form a crazy cult like the one that Rasputin was allegedly a part of? I don't think he was a part of it, but look up crazy sex cult that Rasputin was responsible for. Throw in a dash of animism, and you're getting close to the religion that they created on Mars in this crazy cult of 10 scientists and Hiroko who just disappeared off somewhere. That was a thing. Very weird. And then, over the years, they build up Mars, build up infrastructure, mining. The mining. Magnesium. Iridium, gold, platinum, all this stuff that on Earth is really hard to find. They find it, and they mine it, and then they have to send it out, and they come up with the idea of building a space elevator with a name which they name Clark. I'm assuming that's after Arthur C. Clarke? I forget what the book is called, but I enjoyed that. The space elevator was built out of carbon nanotubes, which they didn't have in the beginning, which took a decade to build. Now you're probably thinking, how is it possible that all these people are living? Well, what did one of these scientists do? They started tinkering around with human genes and they created Pandora's box, the anti-aging genome treatment which allows you to live much, much longer than on average. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong with people now living to 100 and kids still having kids? Oh, you mean overpopulation, civil unrest, and draconian birth enforcements and wars? Yeah, that's exactly what happens. So what do? You send people off the planet to Mars. Problem with Mars, everybody has to live in a box to live. So people are starting to get crowded, and there's also no government on Mars because it's all under the UN. And given the way that UN works on Earth, what can we really expect when they are not even on Earth? United Nations, on a planet with no nations. Well, that's brilliant, and that supposedly was supposed to keep order, which it didn't. And so what did the companies do? They started hiring mercenaries, because that is what companies do. They want to protect their profits, and then people got hungry, and then they got angry, and then they said a revolution. Brilliant. They didn't think this revolution through because, as previously stated, they live in boxes, or worse, in tents, tiny little saran-wrapped tents to keep the atmosphere in, which means that you are one sharp knife or instrument away from being exposed to a poisonous atmosphere. Brilliant idea. So that revolution went wrong. Everything goes kaboom. Nuclear reactors. They didn't get fusion reactors, as far as I know, in 2061. They still hadn't gotten fusion, but they had fast breeder nuclear reactors. That was a nice little addendum they added. I don't know what they used to get there. What rocket did they use to get there? I don't know. Point is, love the science. Science was almost completely accurate. It took time to build things, time to make things, time to repair things. Things go wrong. People died. A lot of people died now that I think about it. A lot of main characters died. Didn't like the interpersonal relationships. Far too loose for middle-aged scientists. I would have thought they would have been a little more calculating. Or maybe they just really are all nuts. In which case, were these really the best people to send? I don't know. The next book ought to be very interesting because it is the aftermath of the 2061 revolution. And that's pretty much the end of all I have to say on this book. Most of it was spoilers. Yeah, thank you. This is Book Zealots. Thank you for watching.